back up, but the adding more staff seems like the low hanging fruit in what the report really presented. And I just wanted to make sure that the committee that is going to be getting the reports and the county board, make sure that you're keeping an eye on the implementation of the software, the cross-training, the leadership, delegation of duties, and all of the other things that the report mentioned. As Supervisor Thays and others have said, we support additional staff, but there's more to the report than just adding bodies. So thank you.
Thanks, Alexis. Can you speak to the software?
Oh, so there was some question discussed at RPC and also the admin in regards to the software. So again, there was new software that was instituted in a department that handles both the general permits, but also what I would consider the pouch side as well in terms of the permits. And then also, if you recall, on the pouch side, there's a 3-year cycle that we issue letters for individuals to get their systems inspected and or pumped. On the pouch side, there was issues when the data was converted over, where we had multiple, I guess the best way to describe it is that there were multiple parcels that were assigned the same thing in terms of a septic system itself. So staff is going through and working on cleaning that data up. Jason Rauer, our IT director, and Mariah met with the staff and they put together a plan to get that data cleaned up. That data should be cleaned up, I would say, by mid-summer, so that should not be an issue for us. In fact, there's previous years now that are complete and ready to go, so that part will be done. On the, I guess what I consider the zoning side, there were issues in terms of some of the functionality of how the system was working. And again, in this case, Jason sat down with the staff, they produced a series of tickets and they sat down with the vendor and had those tickets addressed. And to my knowledge, those tickets are complete. And now we're just in the routine of our, I guess, our maintenance or updates for that. We actually did do a quick review of the software itself to determine, like, is it truly the software? Or because there is a potential where you could have switched and gone to a new software package. Based off of that analysis that the staff did on the review, and Mariah could add on more, but just based off that review and also the staff input, that we invested a lot of time and energy into this existing software, and we feel that it is functioning properly for us to be able to continue using it. So software, in my mind, is not a limiting factor for us moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Can you just clarify when the software was implemented? Like, how long has there been bad data is what I'm really asking about.
I'll defer to Mariah. Mariah, you want to come up front?
And the point of my question too would be, how long has there been bad data in the system that you're using, and why are we just addressing it now is ultimately the question.
Morning.
Morning.
So the software is called, the company is called City Squared, or Municity is the user side on our end. That was implemented in August of 2021. We didn't realize until everything had already been imported into the system that a lot of the historical POUTS data had done what Ken said, which is they, for whatever reason, there was a practice way back of assigning often the same permit number to different parcels. Like your septic system might have the same parcel number as Ken's. And so what happened when the data came in was it intertwined your 2 parcels worth of data. And that wasn't discovered until we were months down the line in the system, because we weren't really looking at a lot of that older stuff. And then at that point, there wasn't a fix that either tech services or the consultant could come up with. And we'd already been using the new software for like 6 months. And so there wasn't a way to go back and regenerate or refix the old data and then bring it back in without wiping out the new stuff that we had done in the system. So there's things like that where 2 different parcels had cross-intertwined data. There's also not mistakes, but just messiness of larger projects like condominium complexes where there's probably multiple systems on a parcel. And it's hard to figure out from the user side when plumbers are trying to enter like pumping data, which system they actually service. Is it for the one for building A, B, or C? So that's one of the things that the shared staff person with Jill's office is working on with us, is to unentangle all of that stuff and make sure that it's clear which records go with what. So that was the issue with the POUTS data. There's no issue with the zoning data that came in. That was all accurate. It's just like Ken said, there were certain glitches along the way, some of which we've been, I mean, most of the tickets that Jason's helped us bring to resolution were things that we were already working on with the company, but we really kind of lit a fire under them the last handful of months. So, and like Ken said, most of the POUTS data cleanup should be done, I would say probably by the end of the summer or fall. And that's been prioritized in terms of being able to get those POUTS files scanned next year so that we don't have plumbers calling us to get site plans sent to them.
Thanks, Moran.
Stay, go.
Why don't you stay for a second?
Okay.
See if there are any other questions?
Okay, great.
Is there any other questions or?
Hugh.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to provide maybe a clarification for Supervisor Fays that this was just something that, you know, just cropped up. And really, I raised it actually in my first budget summit in 2022 about the need for more land use resources, just based on feedback I got from my constituents, the two town chairmen I support in the town of Sebastopol and the town of Sturgeon Bay, and I know they've raised it. And I know it's been raised actually in a few of the Wisconsin Towns Association meetings. And at the RPC where we discussed this, I asked that in subsequent activities, you know, they surveyed the staff, but one of the things the consultant didn't do is he didn't talk to the customers, i.e. the towns that are subject to the comprehensive zoning ordinance. So as we go forward, I'll reiterate that again, that on any of these plans, we need to make sure that the towns that are under comprehensive zoning get a chance to provide their feedback on this as well. Since to some extent they're our customers and they have been providing feedback and raising their concerns. And we have a supervisor from the town of Sebastopol that has actually raised that as well. And knowing full well that, you know, I've heard them for the last 2 years, and we better make sure we listen to all the comprehensive zoning towns relative to how we go forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Hugh.
Can I comment on that?
Sure.
I'm glad you brought that up, Hugh, because somebody did mention that earlier. The Resource Planning Committee actually has been talking since like 2020 about whether we needed more zoning staff or not. And you're right that I think 2022 was the first department head and county board supervisor retreat where I said that we needed more staff.
David?
Yes, I guess regarding like the administrative committee reviewing some of this, as we talk about these different positions, you can become pretty certain that there's a lot of overlap or working association between different individuals. Back to when Supervisor Anigal talked about the sanitarian and public health. The sanitarian, from my recollection, deals often more times with nuisance complaints and types of things of that regard, where the public health would get involved with water problems, health problem, water problems at restaurants or wherever it might be. They work with more of those things. But to what we're doing here, the Land Information Office and the Real Property Office will be going to the Register of Deeds area. Well, they work closely with the Register of Deeds, but they're always working with the zoning people as well. And, you know, it's, so I think that's why we were requesting a broader review and try to stay current on if what we're proposing or what will be proposed will work and help resolve the backlog. And in addition to those two people, there's the floating administrative position that will be helping out in that area more too. And I would hope that if any available help from any other department, not likely, but if there could be something that, you know, they could help with some of this backlog of administrative work. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Benny?
It's just important to say in a county board meeting that we all have lived through the last 4 and 5 years of things changing with the pandemic and multiple applications and a lot of development in land. I believe it's record level land sales. I may be misspeaking that, but it's in my lifetime, it's the most land sales I've ever seen. So I think it isn't a mystery or a surprise, or it really isn't to blame. It's just to say, like, we need to respond to this as quickly as we can and give the support to the department that is doing their best with what they have to address that concern and to address that reality. So I think it's really important. And when I was on RPC, we were talking about it then, and I agree with that. And it's, you know, we should not wait any longer to take action on it. So thank you.
Thanks, Benny. Anyone else? No? All right, thank you, Mariah. All right, we will go to the voter board. It does require a 2/3 majority vote. Passed by a 2/3 vote of 21 yes, 0 no. Thank you. Resolution 2024-15, proclamation of Travel and Tourism Week, May 19th through the 25th, 2024. Do we have a motion and a second? Thank you. By voice vote, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, John. Resolution 2024-16, approval of gift grant and or donation to the Aging and Disability Resource Center. Nissa?
I'd like to approve the motion of resolution number 2024-16. Basically, it's coming to county board because it's over $5,000. If anybody has any questions, I saw Joe floating around before.
Okay. Any questions? Because there's dollars involved, we will go to the voter board. That's passed by majority vote of 21 yes, 0 nay. Thank you. Resolution 2024-17, Highway and Facilities, Facilities and Parks Maintenance Garage Project. Roy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve resolution number 2024-17 for the construction of the highway and facilities parks maintenance garage project.
Some motion, a second. Any questions? No explanation? Okay. We'll move to the voter board. That's passed by majority vote of 21 yes, 0 nay. Thank you. Ordinances. Report. Amendment to the zoning map of Liberty Grove for hawkers. Dave?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the report of the Door County Board of Supervisors amendment to the zoning map for Liberty Grove, and we hold any questions in that until we get to the actual resolution.
Okay. By voice vote to accept the report, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Okay, the ordinance amendment to the zoning map of Liberty Grove for hawkers. Dave?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve mandatory zoning and ordinance number 2024-01, amendment to the zoning map of town of Liberty Grove. In extremely simple nutshell, this is substantially bringing an existing semi-non-conforming long-term use property into compliance with the zoning typically used for the type of land, as well as the land nearby that is currently doing substantially the same work that is listed as this kind of zoning map. And if any questions are necessary, the department head is here.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dave, can you just remind us what the recommendation from the town of Liberty Grove was?
Sorry, drawing a blank. But they supported it, but did it come in right away? No. Your letter.
It was in favor. We didn't get the letter until the day of the meeting, but I did pass it out.
We got the letter.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the letter came in like the afternoon before the meeting and I handed it out to them, but yes, the town is in favor, I believe unanimously.
So you wouldn't have seen it in the packet, only because it didn't arrive fast enough to be in the packet. Yeah.
It was supported unanimously by the Line Commission and the town board at the town level.
Thank you. Nissa?
Having grown up in that area and not remembering a town before or time before hawkers existed there, how long has it been like not technically fully in compliance?
So the mine is actually allowed in the current zoning district as well as the requested zoning district. It's the kind of business end of it, the trade and contractor business, which is somewhat separate. That is what is not in compliance with current zoning, but it hasn't mattered. I mean, it's a grandfathered use that's been there since before the town of Liberty Grove adopted comprehensive zoning. They are looking, I guess, at maybe some expansion to that in terms of new buildings. And if they have this new zoning district, it would just be a regular zoning permit process rather than a public hearing.
Okay. Yeah, because I was gonna say, I mean, I'm early 40s and I don't remember a time before hawkers existed all up in that area. Yeah, there you go. All right, that was my only question, because I was gonna say, I don't remember a time before they were there.
Any other questions? All right, since it's an ordinance, we'll go to the voter board. It's passed by a vote of 21 yes, 0 nay. Thank you. Next is a report to the Door County, amendment to the Door County Code, Chapter 15.02, the floodplain zoning ordinance. Dave?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the report of the Door County Board of Supervisors, amendment to the Door County Code, Chapter 15.02, floodplain zoning ordinance, and hold questions to the actual motion, next resolution.
Okay. By voice vote, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Ordinance 2024-02, amendment to the Door County Code, Chapter 15.02, floodplain zoning ordinance. Dave?
And I make a motion to approve ordinance number 2024-02, chapter 15.02, Door County Code, floodplain zoning ordinance. Very briefly, FEMA came through, did our county for a variety of reasons, remapped a variety of sections along the county. The mapping data is there. There's not a whole lot we can do about it. We basically have to get this approved via various other higher level entities. Don't know what questions you can have for it, but again, Mariah's here.
Mariah, you want to make any comments about it?
Yeah, I mean, if you've had time to read at least the memo that I provided to Resource Planning Committee before their hearing, and then we have a timeline that we put together. Part of it was put together when we had to adopt the current maps, which are from 2009 in the current ordinance. And then continuing on from that, I think that gives a pretty good overview of how the program has evolved. But like Supervisor Enigal said, this is a federal and state mandate. If we don't adopt this as they presented it to us, we will no longer be able to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program. And that means anybody that needs a federally backed mortgage that's in the floodplain will not be able to get one.
If you would add the couple of extras we kind of got with this process, like the inland lakes.
Yes, that's actually one really good thing that came out of this process. Kangaroo, Clark, and Europe Lakes historically have been measured in a completely different way for whatever reason, and private property owners had to go get studies done whenever they wanted to do something on their property. So it wasn't like the Green Bay and Lake Michigan shoreline where we could just tell them a number as to an elevation that they needed to meet. So we worked with DNR to have them actually do studies of those inland lakes. So they're now on the same type of system that Green Bay and Lake Michigan are, where we can, when a property owner calls us, we can tell them what the elevation is that they need to meet, and they don't need to go out and spend $5,000 or $10,000 on a study to redevelop their property. So that was nice that they allowed us to incorporate that into this study as well. And I will say, just this ordinance is quite a bit different than anything we've ever had. We have multiple new floodplain districts, I guess you'd call them, with regulations that are very different than anything Door County has ever seen before or the Midwest has ever seen before. But the bulk of the maps, I think overall, are positive for most property owners. If you had time to go online and look at the maps that we've got on the website, you can see that there's actually a lot less area mapped as floodplain now than there is under the current 2009 maps. It's just that some of the properties are going to be trickier and the ordinance is quite a bit more complicated.
Elizabeth?
Yeah, my town saw this. We had emails going back and forth, and there's concern at the town level with these, and I know we have to approve these either way, but how is this gonna impact our towns? And individuals?
Well, I mean, the county administers the floodplain ordinance for all 14 towns. It's by state law. So it's like shoreline zoning. The towns don't have a choice. The county has to administer the program there. I don't know that it would affect town government necessarily in any way that I can think of. The villages and the city have to do their own ordinances. I assume they're all on a similar timeline as we are, because the maps that we got cover the cities and the villages, or the city and the villages as well as the county, but I don't know that it is going to have any kind of direct impact on town budgets or anything like that.
Go ahead, Dave.
It was a drawn out affair, classic federal. Even they pushed it back multiple times. But sitting on RPC for the whole length of this, I will say that this is one of those extra projects that come along that you have no choice but to work with. And the reports we got during the whole progress of situations where the department spent the time to try to help FEMA understand certain aspects of wave run-up and certain pieces of property, and getting some of the categorized areas to be recognized. And I'm going to use a stupid one. You know, I don't really care that the house is apparently right on the edge of the high water mark. It's 10 feet up on a bluff. But if FEMA doesn't come around and take a look at that aspect, you know, those are the kinds of things that department worked hard to help them understand. There are pieces of Door County that your data isn't quite right, and we'd like to see you. They were allowed to have input to help them change some of the mapping that they were originally heading down. So this is one of those projects that did take considerable amount of time from the planner and Mariah and a couple other staff in the house.
And FEMA decided to audit us in the middle of it once we started making noise, but that was time consuming too.
Thank you. Any other questions? We will go to the voter board. It's passed by majority vote 21 yes, 0 no. Thank you. Report, denial recommendation for Stapa? Dave?
Last one, I make motion to accept the report of the Door County Board of Supervisors amendment to the zoning map of Sebastopol. To me, the included information does a fairly decent job of explaining the key pieces that led to the denial.
Anybody have any questions? By voice vote, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? I'm sorry, you had a voter board?
Need roll call?
Do we need roll call?
Says roll call.
Because it was a report. Okay, we're good. Thank you. Special reports. It's not really a report. I just want to say a few words. In a few weeks, you're going to have a new board, new faces in here. This is my last meeting. What's apropos about it, I believe the very first meeting I ever went to, I was late. So, last one, so be it. So certainly you're going to see some new faces, at least 3 new faces. Rodney will be gone. I will be gone. Dan will be gone. Some of you have competition. Good luck to you. But I guess I just want to say very briefly in appreciation and gratitude. Sorry? Alexis, I'm sorry, Alexis too. I'm sorry, Alexis. Actually, I left my notes in the car when I was running in here, so. So it's just with appreciation and gratitude. I just want to say thank you for your commitment to the county, to communities, and to the other people on this board. And I know that the county's in good hands going forward, and I wish you all good luck. Thank you. New business, discuss rules of order, powers and duties of the county board subunits.
Sure, so just as a quick reminder, for our meeting in April, we actually will take this up as an item and we will adopt the rules. So what we do is we actually go through multiple times. So it's on the agenda today just for discussion, as a reminder that if you have any suggestions or edits, to get those to, probably the best would be Sean. So that way he can get those prepared. What we will do is we will bring it back to the admin committee again for one more time for review. And then they will actually propose this to the next incoming county board. So then once they take office, then one of the first orders of business will be to adopt these documents. So again, if there's any questions or suggestions or corrections, You can see that we already have some already in the works. We'll do it as a red line, so that way you can track it. But again, if there's anything that you'd like to see updated, please let Sean know. Or again, you can talk with David yet, because he'll chair the last admin meeting. But again, the admin committee will be responsible for recommending this to the county board for adoption.
Any oral committee? I'm sorry. Oh, Bob, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like the assembled body to consider, in the past, we actually had a standing legislative committee and a standing sustainability committee. And we had made the choice last time to sort of move those items to each committee. And I guess I think it's just worth considering, you know, we've been doing that for a couple of years. We see it on our agendas, and I think the point was to kind of maybe put it in front of everybody more often, and I think that that's a good thing. I also kind of wonder if there's been really any action in either of those categories, and I kind of wonder if it kind of just becomes something that, like an oral committee report, that just gets sort of looked at and passed on. And I'm not suggesting a change necessarily. I just would like everybody to consider that I think there was a real value of, and I'll just focus on the legislative piece. I think, you know, numerous times, LCC is a great example, you know, where like people come and they have a concern or a complaint, or, you know, they like to see something different. And, you know, the answer is like, well, that's what the state says. So, you know, that's, you know, we're just kind of living up to that standard, which again, and that's what we need to do. But I think there's still an avenue for us to consider those issues. And I guess, I don't know if we've really gotten, with the legislative topic, I just kind of wonder if we're really kind of living up to that opportunity, I guess. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, something to think about. Thanks.
Right. Vinny, did you?
I have a similar comment. Legislative topics come forward. I haven't really heard them come forward too much in any of the committees I've been on. So, which maybe there just hasn't been any, but I feel like we had a little more focus and eye on it when we were considering the ones that would come in from other counties more, and more intentionally looking at that. And then as an outside committee, seeing what committee should that go to next, or should it just not go anywhere? I think that process, I miss it. I think it was useful. So.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Dave?
I will echo both of the previous speakers. I have not seen, again, it could be like was said, maybe there's nothing been coming through. I find it very difficult to believe, not in the way our country is currently running.
Yep. Again, that's something that admin will definitely discuss, but I can say especially from the legislative aspect, it has been very, very quiet. This is the number of bills. If you were even at the WCA, this is the number of bills that have been considered has dropped down significantly. The one thing that they are also doing, if you're aware of, is they've also kind of changed WCA, their approach. So like, for example, for human services, for example, they actually have a special setup for like a human services lobbying day. So a lot of that stuff is actually worked through I guess they have their own group that works on those types of issues. And then you bring that forward, and Joe would bring that forward to the committee in terms of certain items that would actually take action. So you're starting to see that become more refined. You'll see that in LCC. You'll see that on some of the planning legislation, but they're getting more focused or specialized in some of the legislative issues. So it's definitely something that I know everything that comes in, I still talk with Jill, but it has been very, very quiet in terms of what's been happening on a legislative standpoint, in terms of either other counties taking on action as far as other resolutions or that type of thing. Even if you went to, I know David was there, if you went to our WCA for legislative session, the amount of material that was actually reviewed was significantly, I guess, what I consider either not insignificant, but just the level of content and the amount of content was significantly less. So I concur with what you're saying, and share that, but just to give you some context of why we haven't seen that much. It's been really quiet, and Joe can attest to that as well.
So then a different set of questions then, maybe because, is it possible to get a list of, like you do a list for us every month for that? Is it possible to get a list of those items that have come forward that you have reviewed and looked at regardless of the position of it?
Yep, but it won't be every month because
That's fine.
we hardly get anything to anymore.
And that's fine. That helps to put it all 21 into the mindset of we just aren't seeing anything.
Yeah, we can make a list.
You know,
of that.
back in the day when we had more committees, more of us sat in individual, more multiple committees, right? So we would see more of a pattern across multiple committees. That's not the case now.
We can make that part of the monthly report, because we do all the gifts, grants, or donations. We can put down, we could actually put down if there's legislative issues that have been submitted to us, so that way you guys know what's coming in, that we can get a kind of a pulse of what's going on. So that's not a hard.
Same category.
Same thing. So that would not be a problem for us to do it all. So not a problem.
Vinnie?
That made me think too, do we still have the ambassador program where there's some county board members that go do advocacy work with legislators in Madison? And who are the ambassadors? I may have missed some reports if we do have them. So that kind of connects to legislative, and I would look to that group to bring things also that maybe that there aren't any now, but when there are, so.
I do know that WCA did not call for the ambassadors this last time.
Okay.
I don't know if they knew what was gonna go on legislatively and they didn't feel they needed that support, but I was a little surprised that they didn't come back with it. So I'm hoping that they come back with it, because I always thought that was a good program.
Okay, thank you.
Bob?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I believe it was Rodney and myself. And yeah, there wasn't, like you said, there was no, usually there were a couple times a year, and I know like Ken said, they kind of are focused on the health and human services. I think maybe that did happen in October. But yeah, then there normally was another opportunity, and that didn't happen this year. But I pushed the button initially just to, I guess, also echo back Dave's comments, and I would love that if there was some sort of a list or a way we could see that, because I think, I think it's important for us to know what other counties are doing, and that's definitely, like Vinny said, it's something I miss, and I think I think it's a missed opportunity to not be kind of, for all of us to at least have an opportunity to look at it.
Correct.
Thank you.
Anybody else? No.
Good idea that we can do that easily. Yep.
Review of committee minutes, review vouchers, claims, and bills. Announcements. I'll let you do the announcements.
So yeah, let's just, for those that are returning, let's just talk about the 16th a little bit. So it's gonna be it's almost gonna be similar to like the retreat. So we're gonna start off at 8 a.m. and we're gonna do some training. And again, some of the training will be obviously more valuable to the new members, but we'll go through both the training on your computers, how to access your timesheets, how to get into Dayforce, and also how to access agendas and that type of thing. But I still think it's very valuable for everyone to go through and get that training again as a refresher. Then we'll have a break where we'll have some light food available, some coffee, so that you guys can get to meet all the new members and socialize a little bit. And then we'll have our regular meeting at 10 a.m. And I'm expecting that to probably be about 2 hours, and we'll also provide a lunch. But that will be a full, I guess, half-day session for sure. At least I'd plan at least until 1 or 1:30 in terms of the duration of time. And then what we will do is the following week, we would have our regular meeting at 9 a.m. to conduct our regular county business. So the 16th will be all orientation, getting the new members sworn in. And we'll also, obviously, we have to take that break for recess to do the assignments of committees. And that's the other part, is Lori had passed that out, your interest survey. If you could please get that completed and back in by April 3rd. That does make a significant impact on us moving forward in terms of trying to get that refined and in terms of your level of interest. So with that, I don't know if there's any questions, but just to give you an idea what's going on for that day.
Any questions on that? All right, thank you. If not, a motion to adjourn would be in order. Ken? Wait, hold on. Oh, what? Wait.
Yeah, I hope I'm not out of line, but, and we all appreciate everything anybody sitting in these chairs does for the county. But I think a special notice should be made to the one person leaving who has got as many years as Mr. Ross said has. We have a form that we sign at the end, after they've been gone. But with as many years as he has in, I think he deserves a little bit more of a recommendation from us.
How many years has it been, Dan? Ooh, wow.
I got in 46 years ago. I had a 6-year break. But I don't know how many people here are under 46.
Thanks, Ken. Okay, now a motion to adjourn would be in order. There is a motion by voice vote. All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you once again.